In 2005, 2006, when we first had our event, we just got sponsors because we needed to get it paid for. We needed to pay off the credit cards. That was really the original emphasis. And then brands were coming to us and saying, well, you figured this out, and we've been kind of knocking on the door of these influencers and no one's home. So that was when we kind of went, well, if you want to do this right, why don't you try this? And at first it was experimental. It was trying to get brands to integrate with the influencers in different ways. But over time we got really good at it. Yeah. And so now when we work on our conference, and the annual has several thousand influencers, so this is where you really see a lot of this play out. It's all about how do we create these amazing experiences, and we have a lot of feelers in the community. We're of the community, but we can't know everything going on. So we have people in the community that bubble up a lot of this, and we say, all right, what's super hot? Like, what would you really be interested in? And then when we talk to brands, we bring them those conversations together.
But it's interesting, as we've gone along, and when we started a lot of those other social tools didn't even exist. And so now, of course, the universe is so much bigger than blogging. There's so many other ways we communicate in real time and then afterwards. And sometimes some of the work we do is to help sponsors understand that, yes, it's awesome that there's tons of social chatter around this conference. Yes. And you're going to get tons of opportunities to have Instagrams of you and tweets about you, but you're there in person. Yes. Do not lose sight of the opportunity to meet people, to look them in the eye, to talk to them, to humanize your brand, to get them to touch and taste and feel and try your products. And so create an experience that they can't get online by being there in person. And we really have to continue to hammer that home, because seeing that you got millions of impressions on Twitter is very seductive, but it's not the best that a live experience has to offer.
But I think what was most impressive for me is, unlike publishers who have a mass built-in audience and they're kind of tweaking things and innovating, I mean, these are women who have said, I'm starting from a standing start and jumping into that piece. When they talk to you, how do they pick topics and how do they engage their audience? And then secondarily is, how does video fit into that now?
A lot of the influencers that have been doing this for a long time just started engaging in conversations and built it from there. I mean, I always say start reading and interacting before you even start developing your own content, because you'll start to feel it out. And it takes a period of time before you get your voice. But once you've done that, you can start to feel it out. What is probably the mistake that we've seen over the years is, once, for instance, mommy blogging took off, this is when, okay, people go, all right, if I review books and I start reviewing products, I can make money. So they'll just put up a shelf, or put up a stand online and say, here I am, and then there's no community. No brands want to connect with you if you don't have that authentic community behind you anyway. So even though it's slow, it's the only way you can do it. And then we think about, there's some people now that have built their communities within Pinterest or on video, right? The new frontier for a lot of these folks is video, because let's face it, we don't all, come ready to. It's difficult to make good video, but the thing that we're finding is there's this emerging category in video. We call it premium UGC, because it's user-generated content, but it's actually not just thrown up there. It's not just me in front of my camera talking, and it's actually bloggers who've been playing around with the camera and seeing what works and trying things out, and it works. And when they say it that way and they get their audiences involved, awesome. Like for reviews, it's great.
One of the number one questions I get asked by influencers or wannabe influencers is, how do I build my audience? How do I build my community? And I always say a couple things. And the first thing I say is, well, where are you an audience? Whose community are you part of? Where are you being reciprocal? It's just as easy for an individual influencer to fall for the if I build it, they will come mentality as it is for a mainstream media company. And they have to get out there. They have to interact. But the second thing I say is, you actually don't have to have a singular niche. That's a very popular thing to say. You got to focus on one thing and find the one thing. That is one way, but the other thing is you can have a singular voice. If you look at Irma Bombeck as the old school example, she talked about the most mundane aspects of life, but it was her voice. And if you look at Jenny Lawson today, the blogess, who's keynoting at BlogHer 14, she talks about really random things, But her voice is so distinct that she builds a following around knowing that only she will tell a story that way. And so her video just takes that to the next degree. And let's face it, some people are, writing in a singular voice is sometimes hard to get across versus just talking. And so video is an answer for some people who feel like they can't quite capture their essence in the written word, but they can if they're talking to you.